Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast, friends. It's Kim Skorupski here at the University of Texas Medical Branch in sunny Galveston, Texas, looking at Dr. Lauren Maggio. Dr. Maggio is a professor and the director of research in the Department of Medical Education at the University of Illinois College of Medicine. My former neighbor, because I was 12 years at Rush University Medical Center in the West Loop, lived out in North Aurora, and I loved my experience there. And so UIC was our neighbor. And most importantly for our conversation today, Dr. Lauren Maggio is the editor in chief of MedEdPORTAL. And MedEdPORTAL, we all know and love. And so Lauren is going to dispel some myths about MedEdPORTAL, remind us why it's so great, and inspire you to publish your work in MedEdPORTAL. But I pleaded with Lauren earlier if she would just tell us a little bit about her leadership journey, how she became an editor in chief. So again, thanks for being here, Lauren. Appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the chance to celebrate MedEdPORTAL. I'm so proud of this resource. I'll just say we turned 20 last year. So in journal years, that may feel early, but we have moved out of our teens and we are now moving into our adulthood. So very proud of MedEdPORTAL. And I had a wonderful journey to get here. So some people may not know, but I started off my professional life as an information scientist. So I worked in the library. I was a clinical librarian, so I got to round with the medical teams, sharing information, connecting people with information at points of care. And I also worked with a lot of educators. So I had the opportunity to point them towards MedEdPORTAL as a resource so that they could get activities for use in their classroom, and also places where they could publish the innovative work that they were doing, their educational scholarship. As I was serving as a librarian, I decided I loved research and went ahead and did a PhD in health professions education. And I did that at the University of Utrecht in conjunction with UCSF. And when I started into the field of research, I realized I was interested in blending my background in information science and in health professions education. And so I started to look very closely at the field, especially its publications. And I was lucky at that point to get asked to join the journal Perspectives on Medical Education, which is more of a traditional research journal. And I worked very closely with the editor in chief there. And I worked my way up into the role of deputy editor in chief. So I was deputy editor in chief for several years, got to see everything coming across my desk and really got into the weeds with publishing. Then when the opportunity opened to take on MedEdPORTAL, I jumped at it because, as I said, from early in my career, I had been using MedEdPORTAL in my work. I had been encouraging faculty to put their materials in MedEdPORTAL, so it felt like a really natural fit. I'll also say that MedEdPORTAL is a bit of a unicorn. It is a diamond open access journal. And what that means is that not only can everyone around the world read what's in MedEdPORTAL for no charge, there's also no charge for you to publish in MedEdPORTAL. So there are no fees for the authors and for the readers, which to me, as someone who came up in information science and open access, is incredibly important.
It's so huge, huge. It's everything. I'm shocked, continue to be shocked every day when I try to publish somewhere, someone's trying to publish somewhere, and I get requests, do we have money to publish in this journal? I need $1,200. I need $2,700. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. So that is huge. Thank you. If whatever part you played in that, thank you for being free and open access, truly.
Well, I have to say a big thank you to the AAMC. They are the sponsor of the journal, and they've been very generous, and they've been incredibly supportive in making this a reality. Like I said, it's 20 years old, but it started off as a repository of teaching and learning materials. And over the last two editors, Chris Candler and Grace Huang, it has really become a full-fledged journal. We're indexed in Medline. You'll see our material in Google Scholar. You'll see it in Scopus. So you're bumping into our materials all the time. And just like any journal, we're of course a peer-reviewed journal. Everything that is in PubMed is peer-reviewed. I work very closely with our reviewers and with our editors and deputy editors to make sure only top quality, rigorous scholarship is making it into the journal. So incredibly proud of the journal and how far it's come in the past 20 years. Some kind of fast facts about it. We get about 400 papers a year, so we keep our peer reviewers and our editors busy, and we see everything from PBL sessions to lots of simulation cases. We also get curricula, we get things on a huge variety of topics, and we are open to topics across medicine. We are looking for the most innovative, the rigorous scholarly activities that will come in. So those are the things we're looking for. And we just actually redid our website. And one of the big things we've built on there are additional information for authors. So we have an author center, which we really try to get into the nitty-gritty with authors of how to submit to MedEdPortal and to be successful. What I really want as an editor is for all of my authors to put the best foot forward before work goes out to peer review. So we've just beefed up our author center to give you those tips and things that we are really looking for. So we don't want to be prescriptive. You are the authors, you're creating your scholarship. But we've seen enough things go through peer review that we really want to give you that guidance that's going to help you to get through peer review. So if you're thinking about submitting to MedEdPortal, and I really hope you will, my best tip would be to look really closely at that author center. We have templates, we have guided information for all of the sections. And I'll also point out one thing we do that's unique to most journals is that every month we have an author Q&A. And I have two amazing associate editors that attend that, and they will work with you if you have questions about what's appropriate to submit, you're stuck in a submission. I also join, and I'm happy to talk with people that maybe have had a rejection or a desk rejection and they want more information. Because unfortunately, with 400 submissions, it's hard to give that really detailed feedback. But you are always welcome to come to those monthly Q&As, and we are there to talk with you and to provide insight on maybe why the paper didn't move forward. We're there to provide you insight when you're starting a project, which is always the best time to come is when you're starting that project. So I just wanted to point that out, and that lives on our homepage, and I would encourage folks to sign up if they're at all interested in publishing with us.
Dr. Maggio, I really want to underscore and amplify what you just said. Folks, on the website, mededportal.org, and we'll link it to Lauren's episode, mededportal.org. Under authors, it's called author development. This is a unique, I've never heard of anything like this. So this service that you offer is so amazing that we can get one-on-one consultation to grow as scholars. This is very, very unique. And so I really, again, applaud the AAMC and you and your directors, Dr. Akinola and Kreutzer, for serving in this capacity. It's just such a gem. I love it.
Yeah. And what's nice too is we have the staff on. I am very lucky to have an amazing staff. And one of the unique things about MedEdPortal, because when you're submitting to MedEdPortal, you are describing your educational intervention. But I would say the most important part of what you're providing are actually the educational materials that's going to let someone else replicate your hard work. And with those educational materials, sometimes there are copyright issues, right? You can't have licensed pictures, you can't have video clips, things like that that don't have the rights cleared. So our amazing staff will work with you to ensure that you are staying on the right side of copyright, and they also join the episodes or the Q&As so that they can help you walk through that. I do want to clarify, because we are an open access Diamond Journal, when you submit to MedEdPortal, you will select a license, and we use Creative Commons licenses, which ensure that you have your copyright, that you will get credit for your work, but you are allowing others to reuse your work and modify it for their own context. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing at MedEdPortal is we are providing this library of evidence-informed teaching and learning resources, and we want our colleagues around the world to be able to take those off the shelf and put them into play in their classroom.
Yeah.
I know as someone who teaches, like having to create something from scratch is painful. I always encourage people, go look at MedEdPortal first. Perhaps someone has done something right on the money with what you want to do, or they've done something else, and there might be an approach that you've never thought of. And all the materials are right there. You can see the PowerPoints, you can see the videos, you can see the assessment tools. It's all in there. We wanted kind of a soup to nuts of educational activities. So if you go to MedEdPortal, you'll see what we call the educational summary report. That looks more like a kind of a traditional research article where it walks you through the introduction, the reason for this, then the methods. And the methods, unlike just a study, is it takes you through the steps of everything that they did. So the amount of time it took, the faculty that were involved, what training your faculty needed, what kind of rooms do you need, the nuts and bolts that you're thinking about as a teacher. And then, of course, we require that everything that goes into MedEdPortal is assessed. And we are typically looking for Kirkpatrick level 2 or higher. So we're thinking more on learning. There are some instances where satisfaction data is okay. And that tends to be less and less now. But if something is really new, if you are starting in an area where it is totally brand new, you're using an approach that people just haven't used before, seeing this a little bit in the AI space, that's okay. However, if you have a topic that's been pretty tried and true, we are looking for a higher level of evaluation, just because that's the maturity of your topic.
Right.
And again, if you have a question about that, if you're not quite sure that your evaluation's hitting where it needs to be, or you're saying, I'm going to be teaching this, where does my evaluation need to be? That's, again, a great opportunity to come to one of those Q&As and chat with us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What I'm thinking of, if I'm an end user, what's the turnaround time, Lauren, if I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna submit my stuff. If I do that today, say it's April 1st,
Mhm.
approximately how long on average, all things, whatever, the best case scenario, what kind of turnaround would we expect to have a like thumbs up, like you got accepted?
Yeah. So that is one of the things I've been working on since I came in, and we changed some of our processes. So I'm an author myself. I have a lot of students. I have a lot of early career researchers. I understand the importance of time to publication. So one of the things we've tried to do is to be relatively quick on our desk reject. So I can give you a little bit of background of what happens when you submit, because I know that can be a bit of a black box. So when you submit to MedEdPortal, it comes in, it goes first to one of our staff editors. They take a quick look to make sure everything is there that would need to be there. So your appendices, your ESR. It then comes to me as editor in chief. So I see everything that comes into the journal. And I look through the materials again, check for completeness, check to see if it's novel. Is this something that we have a lot of coverage? Is this something that's very well covered in the broader literature? And then I take a look through what's been done. I look at the assessment and make pretty quick judgment of whether or not this is ready to go to peer review. If it's not, I try to turn that back to you in less than a week so that you can move on. You can go to another journal, you can revamp your work. If it looks good to go, I will send it to my team. They will do a screen related to those copyright issues. So things like, does this have, movie clips in it that we can't use? Does this have patient images, making sure that we have permissions, all of those things. Once it gets through that, so they will work very closely with the authors to make sure their materials are optimized. It will then go out to peer review. Like any journal, we require 2 peer reviews. We use a single mast process. So the peer reviewers and the editors do know who the authors are. We do not require our editors sign, our peer reviewers don't sign. I will say if I had a magic wand, a peer review would be one thing I could speed up. We do try our best, but it can get slowed down there. Then it comes back to our associate editors, and they will help to collate that information from the 2 peer reviewers and try to give you some guidance about what's most important to follow. Then it goes to our deputy editors who have this nice bird's eye view across the entire journal. So similar to me, each of them is seeing half of what's coming through. And then they provide you with the summary. And what we want to do is give you really good guidance to move forward. So in terms of how long that takes, I believe that's running close to 8 to 12 weeks. I mean, you can
Oh my
see
gosh, that's short.
there's a lot
I
of
thought you were
hands
gonna say
jumping.
8 to 12 months.
No,
No, that's great.
but that would be, we get it back to you with revisions. And
Mhm.
then we give everyone 60 days for revisions, then we come back. We do try to move things as quickly as possible, but again, good things take time, good peer reviewers take time. And similarly with the with the AEs and the DEs, we really want to give people some good guidance. Again, as an author myself, the worst is when you get some feedback, and I remember once it just said, elaborate. It was just like, I hate that kind of feedback. So when I'm looking at our, I want it to really be instructive. I want it to be meaningful. As you pointed out, we really take pride in our ability to build up our field. That's really important to us, author development. And so you do get a lot of feedback from MedEdPORTAL, but please know it's in the vein of wanting to help authors be the best that they can be. And I'm incredibly proud that we have a lot of residents and medical student first authors. That's been one of the wonderful discoveries when I took on the journal, was to see just how many med students have come through. And I talked to a lot of people, and many people say MedEdPORTAL was my first publication. That got me excited about medical education. And I think if we can keep doing that, we're doing our job, and that's wonderful.
It really is full circle. So it sounds to me like within a week, I will learn if this is not the proper home for my piece.
Mhm.
And I'm going to learn, or I'll learn that it's been sent along to editors. So that's a very courteous, thank you, courteous way versus not hearing anything for months. I went for like 3 months and didn't hear. And I'm like, whatever happened to that journal? And I went back and I emailed them and I'm like, hey, just kind of knocking on the door here. And they're like, oh, we went back to the portal. You didn't click the whatever button. And
Oh,
I'm like, are you kidding me? I had to wait 3 months to realize I hadn't heard about that. There was no built-in system that's saying, hey, this ding dong just put her paper on our thing, but she didn't push the go button. And I thought, oh my gosh, we can do better than that. So thank you for being just kind and courteous to people who are trying to do the right thing. And for the authors out there, would-be authors, my goodness, just like any grant or anything we do, prepare, prepare, prepare. Take advantage of this fantastic free resource on the author development program, the Q&A, all the templates, all the guidelines you're giving for authors, certainly the repository of all the things there that you can kind of peruse and go, okay, take pieces and parts and build as good a proposal, if you will, as you can, put it out there, vet it, and that'll increase the likelihoods of checking all those boxes. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. And I just think it's such a fantastic resource. And I really appreciate you, Lauren, for coming on and chatting with us about it. In the last couple of minutes, I'm wondering if you could, do you see a common thread of roadblocks or obstacles that when you are seeing either immediate rejections that are kind of easy because it's just not the right place or people didn't even look at MedEdPORTAL. But can you kind of give a sense for those of us out there? What are the bugaboos or the things that you see over and over and over again that you think, gosh, I wish people would la la la. Anything like that for closing comments, Lauren?
yeah, no, that's great. And you're hitting the nail on the head. There's certain comments that I write over and over again in the margin. One of them is when you're writing up your introduction, please provide an educational justification of the approach you took. If you use simulation, if you use case-based learning, whatever you used, let us know why and point out the evidence. There's evidence behind this. Please go into the literature, look at some of those seminal sources, and bring that evidence forward as a warrant for why you used that educational approach. Another one that we see is make a broad case for why this education was needed. Yes, you may see a local need, but chances are go to the literature, build a more global case for why we need to be covering this topic. The other thing I would say when it get into the methods, I really want to know not just all the wonderful things that happen, but I also want to know some of those things that were a little bit less great. If you realized maybe you needed more time for this, if you recognize that maybe the group sizes should have been between 4 and 6 and not 15, those are things that are going to help people down the road when they take your resource off the shelf. So you can include that in the method. You can also put it into your discussion as things that you would encourage other people to do. It could be things, since you've run it, you've started to do. I mean, I want to ultimately save our colleagues time. So if there was something that went a little sideways or lessons you learned, that's really valuable. And there is space for that in MedEdPORTAL. The other thing I would say is you are not writing up a study. I know it's tricky because our educational summary report it follows the intro methods results discussion. However, what you're really doing is providing the recipe for someone to do your intervention. So I would encourage you not to use a ton of study language. It's really about describing your intervention. So think about it in that way. You're creating that recipe for your neighbor. If you were going to be passing off this lesson to the next person, the next faculty member at your institution, what would you want them to know? So think about it in that way.
Oh, Dr. Maggio, I want to have you back because I can't help but, and I know you probably talked about this with your peers, a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of a thing, where I would love to see a a map of whatever you call it, some kind of visual map or a tree of Dr. Maggio published this in MedEdPORTAL. Kim Skorupski applied it here. Holly West applied it there. Adam, Wolf applied it there, and all the iterations of that would be such a cool way to show evolution and growth and impact on building. So I would love to see how that, if we track, I don't know how in the world you track that. I mean, you could see people who click on something, but if they actually did it, but if they had a special section on people who've use people's things, that would be such a cool, even like a presentation at AAMC or something to show that kind of cyclical feedback loop and impact, because a lot of us have no idea if anybody ever reads our articles or does our stuff. You might hear, through word of mouth, but I think that would be cool. We'll get you on next time and kind of talk and brainstorm about that.
Yeah, and I would say you have permission in the MedEdPORTAL. So we sometimes get submissions, and people have been doing this activity for 4 or 5 years, and they will talk about some of that flow, how it's changed, what they've learned, and then they'll focus the evaluation on their latest one, but they give us some of that background so we can see it come forward, and that's incredibly valuable because you never really get it right the first time. I don't. Anyway, when I sit down and do a lesson, you're tweaking things every time you come back into the classroom or the online space.
Yeah, I love the organic, authentic honesty of the process. So, Dr. Lauren Maggio, thanks for being with Faculty Factory. Appreciate you so much. We'll have you back to talk about this next iteration of this. I'd love to see who uses people's stuff and how they made it better. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Faculty Factory podcast. We are a faculty development community sharing tools to build academic leaders in healthcare. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast? Please visit facultyfactory.org/contact and send me a message there. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Office of Faculty Affairs at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas.